You're listening to the Rapid Electric Tailgate Party. Let's join Monty Walker with the Rock Hill Investments Coach's Corner with Bulldogs head coach Jake Smith.
Coach, what an impressive performance against SNS on homecoming in front of a big crowd. You talk about, everybody getting their $5 worth. I think they got $5 worth. 611 total yards was second all-time in school history. 558 rushing yards was fifth most all-time. That was quite an output.
Yeah, I think maybe every week might need to be homecoming, or maybe Ayla Jones needs to have the volleyball game go into the fifth set, so she shows up a little bit late and we literally hold up court about 5 or 10 minutes late. So maybe we got to have that every week. But it was pretty good to see the kids go out there and have a lot of fun. And we wanted to go out there and continue to still run some football plays, just because we got here so late as a staff, where every rep really does matter. And so they talked me into doing the victory formation where we kneel it, and so our kids can witness that at our home field. But it was really fun, and I tell those kids every week, they really are, as much as they frustrate me sometimes with some of the growing pains that we're going through, that it really is a fun group to watch play, because just especially the way how they play defensively. They play really hard, play really physical brand. They get around, they celebrate, and it was good to see the offense kind of match that type of energy where we were celebrating more. And, Coach Barnes was trying to test his vertical. It's no longer his age, so he might need to calm down a little bit. Jumping on the sidelines, he might pull an Achilles, but it's a good group, and they're really, really fun to watch.
We asked last week about how you could get Reich and Cross more involved in space, and you guys certainly did that.
Yeah, and that's another thing that we're going to continue to do moving forward. We try to, get the playmakers the ball, and Reich and Cross has always been one of our playmakers ever since I got here in July. And it was good to finally see the offense be a little bit more creative. And there's still some more outside the box and more creativity that's to come against Leonard. So hopefully everyone, I don't know if they charge $5 or $8. So if they charge $8, then, we come up with a win, then maybe I can talk to Julie Snap about getting everybody $3, getting their $3 back, so you don't have to pay $5. But we got to be more creative, and we have to force him the football. Really every one of your players has to be forced the ball, and whether it's a good look or not, those guys are going to be able to make you look good. And I had to dig deep once again into the archives, and I found some a few plays for Reich and Cross. So hopefully everybody enjoys it tonight.
Defensively, Gage Carr, Charles Furr, Aiden Torres were outstanding at linebacker. I may get in trouble for naming them the tiny triplets, but if they can contain that, or continue that type of performance, I think good things are going to happen for your defense. Yeah,
you don't really have to coach those kids very hard, and I got kind of lucky being able to name myself the linebackers coach. I got the smartest kids in the room, and the toughest kids in the room, I think, and they can get everybody lined up. So it's pretty easy to coach linebackers, especially in this scheme. And they really are. It's a good group of kids, and it was a good thing that those kids were able to get Gage Carr talked into playing football again after his back injury and things like that he was battling in previous events that occurred in the off season, for whatever reason, made him step away. But the kids were able to recruit him and get him back in, and his production has gone up. I think his buy-in is getting better more and more each week. But good night. Charles Furr, he had, I want to say, 11, 12, 13 tackles, some quarterback hurries. It is probably one of the best games of his career. And, he was kind of laying the wood a little bit too. And, he earned 13 stickers for the side of his helmet on Saturday. And it's kind of unfortunate we didn't get to celebrate him, but, good on him. Charles and Deacon, they were competing and doing something with the band. I don't know where they were, but he wasn't there. I know Deacon showed up early and watched film with Coach Hamill. And so we got some kids that are involved not just in football but other extracurriculars, and they're still finding ways to be productive, still finding ways to come work hard. And, Chris Torres, I call him a little bit, does an unbelievable job getting everybody lined up. He's not the most vocal kid. He squints about like Jameis Winston, so I don't know if he sees too much, but what he does see is he sees his keys and he triggers. And, one thing is that I don't think he gets praised enough on is, his pass drops. Like, he's always around the football. And, I don't want to brag on my bird dog too much, but, people just they're not able to throw on Chris Torres. And that says a lot about how he takes pride in his drops, and he works really hard throughout the week. And it's a really good group. And, Knox Bounds is also a kid that can go in and play all three positions at any time. And so it's a really good group, really good room of kids.
I got my Torreses mixed up there. It's Chris Torres, not Aiden Torres at the linebacker. Coach, the offensive line was outstanding. Looks like, the whole group has really come together, and they dominated the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, gosh, it was good to see them. The number of pancakes that they got, just, a lot of the big hits and the movement on double teams. And also some of those unsung heroes is when you go back to Van Derrick and Gage Carr playing tight end, and the stuff that they were able to do with the double teams that they had and the kick out blocks that they had. There were some moments on film where those kids from SNS were running away from contact, and that's something that we want to be able to put on film for everybody in our district to see. And being able to see the development of our sophomores that got in and played, which is just going to be huge for us in the moving forward, because we do lose three really good significant players on this year's unit. But we'll still have Gavin Snap coming back. We got Jacob Griffo coming back, but we got to get those other sophomores going. And it was really good to see them come together and be really successful, and especially being fifth all time. And being able to do that when the Zach Hudson and the Del West heydays where they were going 2 rounds, 3 rounds, 4 rounds deep in the slot T. Anytime you're able to put up that many yards and you're able to put it up against a slot T team, you feel really good about it, and you feel good about the development of our kids and just how they understand the different styles of blocking. And it's gotten to the point where, hey, there's only 2 run plays that you need to call, only 2, and our kids are really confident in power and counter, and those are they should be hitting in the A gap, and those are man makers, and we feel pretty good about that with that group that we have.
You're listening to the Rock Hill Investments Coaches Corner with Howe head coach Jake Smith. We'll be right back. Tonight's Bulldogs football is brought to you by Noble Ridge, right here in Howe, just off Highway 75 at Summit Hill Parkway and walking distance to Summit Hill Elementary. Noble Ridge is our hometown's newest master plan community, featuring new homes from the nation's top builders, plus trails, parks, and family-friendly amenities. Developed by Rock Hill Capital Investments, a trusted North Texas developer with thriving communities in Salina, Sherman, and across the region. Noble Ridge is proud to call Howe home. Learn more at nobleridgetx.com. That's nobleridgetx.com. You're listening to the Rock Hill Investments Coaches Corner with Howe head coach Jake Smith. Coach, you never know what traditions will stick. The Victory Light arrived in Howe in 1977, for example, and you've talked about the black flag that's brought out before the games. It has a skull and a crossbone. What does that represent, and how did it make its way to Howe, Texas?
So the unique story behind the black flag is that it originated out in Odessa. And you talk about the Odessa Permian heydays. Well, the one thing about Odessa, they always had really good athletes, but they were also undersized. And the thing that they took pride in is that they graded only effort, and that's the only thing that we grade here in Howe. Well, so you got undersized kids that are playing with great effort, fanatical effort, and they're winning ball games that they're not supposed to be winning. And then all of a sudden that foundation is laid. And then now, like, what Mojo football is all about, significant wins in the semifinals and then all the state championship appearances and the state championship games that they won, that there was a coach that made his way to Ennis, Texas in the late 80s, early 90s. Try to bring some of that, but probably ran too many kids off. And he's a really good guy, but ran too many kids off. Well, the athletic trainer that I had with me in Ennis in 1997-ish, he said, we always talk about playing with great effort and how we're not the biggest, we're not the fastest, we're not the strongest. What if we had a symbol that, that we could use that could be like our battle cry? Because every group of soldiers, whether you're in a platoon, a boot camp, or whether you're actually, in a camp in Fallujah, everybody's got a flag that regiment or that platoon, can put their name on. And so, you talk about black flag effort. Pretty much what it is like, no matter how big, how fast, or how strong I am or my opponent, I'm going to outwork them with fanatical effort. And that was one thing that we stuck with here in Howe is, we aren't the biggest, we aren't the fastest, and we aren't the strongest. But what we do have is a great group of hardworking kids with some decent size, but we work really, really hard. We have a blue-collar mentality. And so it was one thing, especially when I hired Coach Cromwell to be our offensive line coach, he was one of those guys that was able to wave a black flag. And we talked about what it really means to play with great effort. And really effort is just like showing how much you love your teammates. And that black flag, being your battle cry. Once a war is declared, I can't finish this quote because it's part of the club. So if you want to know the full story, there's only a few select people that know this. But there comes a point in every man's life where you got to raise a black flag, and then there's an ending to that sentence. But only the kids in the program are allowed to know. But that black flag symbolizes our effort. And one of the unique things that the tradition of that black flag that we brought is that every team will have a patch on that black flag. And the patch that we have on the black flag this year is it's a tree that it's an overgrown tree that has beautiful green leaves, but it has a deep root system. But that flag in that battle cry, it signals death to the past and rebirth. And we talked about all the significant events that these kids in Howe have gone through, whether it's losing a teammate and someone that they love dearly, or a scandal that has happened. These kids they've been through hell and back, and none of it was deserving. And so, we talk about, death to the past. We don't even talk about the past because moving forward, this is who we're going to be. And everybody got a Sharpie and they signed their name, and moving forward, as long as I'm here and we had that black flag, say it's 20 years, we'll have 20 years of rosters where every kid's the ink has bled, and it will stain the thread of that black flag. And it's just something that means so much to this community that we're going to give fanatical effort every single rep, no matter who our opponent is. And I know there's probably some people down there on 289 that, they started waving a black flag, but I truly think they stole that from us, and they're going to think that, we stole it from them. But, one day they're going to feel the wrath of that black flag.
Coach, here we are, week 6 already, second game of district play. Leonard routed Callisburg, who you have a common opponents with. Did that score shock you a little bit, 49-6, Leonard over Callisburg?
Yeah, it really did, just because we felt like we should have won the Bowie game, but all Calsburg did is big play Bowie and held them to 20-some-odd points. And, at one point it was like a 2 or 3 possession game. And so you talk about common opponents. That quarterback that Bowie had is really good, and he kind of reminds me of the quarterback that Leonard has. And, Calsburg wasn't able really to contain the kid in Leonard, but they were able to put pressure on the kid in Bowie. So you sit there and you wonder, should I be worried? Should I be concerned? Or should we just go ahead and just psychoanalyze this and go, hey, if we take care of ourselves, anybody can win on any given night. And you never know who's going to show up. I mean, that's why you play sports, and it's fun, especially with teenagers, even though it can be nerve-wracking at times. But when I was told that score, I was told by a young man interviewing me after the S&S game, and I was pretty shocked. And I was like, well, I really would like to celebrate this victory, but now I'm kind of concerned before I get to plug the tape on. But it was kind of concerning, but then when you actually get to dig deep into it and look at the tape, you know why. Like, Leonard played really good on defense, and they created turnovers, and they jumped on top of Calsburg 21-0, and it ended up being a death sentence for them in the first quarter. So there's a lot more than, every scoreboard's got a different story. You just can't just look at the scoreboard to make your own judgment. You actually have to dig in and analyze the tape to figure out what the whole story was.
Leonard quarterback Jacoby LeCook is a 4-year starter. Howe really did a number on him his freshman year, but ever since he's owned the field against Howe and a lot of good teams. How in the world do you contain him?
Well, I don't know if you really can. That's what I told the kids, is that whenever we do get to him, we have to continue to put body shots on him. I'm not sure if they have really seen a team that's as physical as what we're capable of being. And so when we do get to him, he's got to feel us. And there are going to be opportunities for us to get there to him. Calsburg was able to create some pressure, and, even Prairie Land was able to get to him. So, we got to take advantage of those opportunities. But at the end of the day, I told the kids, just like the Bowie kid, is that he is going to have a long run. He is going to be able to break a tackle. He is going to be able to throw the ball up, and they will catch it. It's just, how many opportunities can we take advantage of getting to him and having him feel us to where we are going to be able to slow him down? The answer to that is we don't know, because we do know he's going to have success, but how many more times can we have success than he can against us is really the good question.
Offensively, I guess you go into the game and just call the same plays that got you 600 yards, right?
Yeah, if it ain't broke, why do we got to tinker with it and try to fix it? And it's one of those things where, like, you do have to put some wrinkles on things. You do have to do things differently. But if I'm going to run counter, maybe I run counter with a different motion, or maybe I shift and get into a different formation. Maybe I add a RPO, or maybe I add a reverse to it to open up the counter play or the power play. But, if you're a counter football team, you got to find different ways to run counter. You just can't line up in the same formation. But at the end of the day, counter is going to be counter, and you're going to call it over and over again if you're still productive. And, if not, then I promise you, and I can probably be pretty animated, but I promise you, Coach Barnes, he gets an earful from me. Probably not as much as I'd like to, but it's probably a little too much for him at times. But it's all about the kids. That's what we tell them. It's all about the kids. So we're good. As soon as the game is over, we're able to hug it out, and we're able to go to the shower and talk about it, and we're all friends at the end of the day. And I think it's exciting that our kids are starting to develop that identity where they want to run just one football play, and it's pretty good. And it kind of makes you feel good that the fruits of your labor are starting to pay off, and the kids are having fun, and at the end of the day, having a good high school experience. And getting them to where they can act right in the hallways and act right in the community. The winning is a byproduct of just being a good person, and you're starting to see that pay off, and it's really exciting to see you in that locker room.
The Coach's Corner has been brought to you by Rock Hill Investments. You're listening to the Rapid Electric Tailgate Party.